Let me go back to the original program, the program that I started this series of video for the loops. And here I have the code for test while. And you can see that we have our loop, right? So here basically we have a counter, and then it's just gonna print 100 times count welcome to Java. Okay, so what I'll do, I'm just gonna use now, instead of a while loop, I'm gonna use a for loop. Okay, so same code using for loop. Okay, so here you will go for int I'm gonna say count. Okay, I'm just gonna replace the other one, equal to 0, and then you go with the condition count less than 100, and then you go with the steps, right? So you say that in this case you go count plus plus. Okay. Yeah. And here basically you will have now your set of curly brackets. Okay. I need to get rid of this statement, so I'm just gonna comment this. Okay. Now I have something similar, right? So let me just refer you to the book so you guys can see it. Okay, so here basically I have a for loop, I have my variable, and then basically the initial value, and then the condition, and then basically the steps. I will talk about this later, which is one of the advantages of using for loop. Okay, so you can see here that the simplicity against while loop, right? You don't have to come up with an initializer and then pretty much have a counter, right, to do that, right? So notice that everything is just in one line. Okay, so now I'm just gonna take my statement and I just put it here. Okay, so let's run this. Let's see how it works. Okay, and you can see here we have basically the same type of output, right? Okay, the same type of output. One of the advantages, again, you see everything in one line. Okay, the other advantage is that here you can actually control the counter. So now you can do that with the while loop too, right? But here it's more straightforward. So let's see if I can, instead of going by ones, I go by twos. Okay, and let's see what happens. Right, so notice here that now I go by twos. Right, 0 to 4. What about going backwards? Going from 100, let's say greater than 0. Okay, now I decrease less. Okay, there you see here I go from 100 all the way to 1, right? If I put it less or equal than 0, it will extend to 0. Okay, and you can see it here, right? So it's pretty nice, pretty straightforward, and you can see how everything just basically gets done in just one line of code. Okay, notice that here I have to initialize my variable. You can use a double if you want to, that will work, but this is what you will typically uh, see. Okay, what are so here let me just show you now the flow chart. Okay, so you have your initial option, and then here you have your condition. It will do the statement in the for loop, and then basically we just go, right? So you can see here I is equal to 0, I less than 100. So it looks like pretty much like a while, right? But the only thing is that the syntax is just different, right? So that's the nice thing about that. Um, there is a section that talks about what loop to use. Okay, so I would recommend you reading this. Pretty much it's a personal decision. I go most of the time with for loops, right? So 90% of the time I can get away with a for loop. And then sometimes I will use a do while. Very rare I will use a while loop. because I find that the while loop and the for loop pretty much for me has been the same, right? But the do while basically is a post test loop, so you will execute at least once and then test later, right? So those are conditions. I like also while loops when here I have other boolean variable that doesn't have to be do like a counter, so I will use like a flag. um, for example, let's say that I create let me just go back here. Let's say that here I have a condition. I'm gonna create a boolean variable. I'm gonna say uh, can I print, okay, and they're gonna send that to false, okay. Okay, and then here I'm gonna say a statement as the user the password, right? I'm not going to do the whole thing, but you guys can get the idea. Now here you can have a statement. If password is correct, then set can I print to true, right? And then here you will do that. Okay, so I'm just going to indent it. So here I will say can I print is equal to true. Okay, so now my flag is set up to true, and then here I will just use this can I print. Okay, and then here I don't need the counter. I mean, I'm just doing a different example. So here I need to get rid of this. Okay, so here I have what is called a flag, right? So things will happen in your code where you're gonna set your flag to true, and then if that flag is set to true, then you will do this, right? Or you can do that with an if statement, or you can repeat this loop somehow, right? So that's one nice use of the while. Here you have to be careful because if you do this, look what happens, right? It just stays stuck in that loop. So somewhere in here, in this case, you will have to say, can I print is equal to false inside. That way it will stop, right? So I'm just gonna run it again, and then let me stop this. What can I print? Welcome to Java, set to false, and then it will print only one time. You see, it's true, and then it will set to false, and then it will stop. Right, so that's something that you can do with a while, right? And here you can change this also to a if statement if needed. Okay. But here you can put a counter and then do it like a couple of hundred times, and then set it to false, and then it will stop. So it's just to show, things that you can do with a while loop. The other thing that they mention in here is the nested loop. In this case, we have a double loop, right? So you can see we have one loop, and here we have another loop. Okay, so actually I should just take this piece of code. Let me see if I can just copy this. Okay, so we need one curly bracket, two curly bracket. Just gonna copy this guy. I'm just gonna bring it in here. Okay, so I will have to do some fixing. Okay, so I have to get rid of the numbers. I didn't copy the whole thing. Let me see. Let's go back again. It didn't print the whole thing, so let me just go again all the way to A13 and this guy. Okay, just get this and this. Doesn't want to copy my print statements. The for. We can do them. Okay, so let's just compare here, right? So one thing that I'm doing here, I just working on this on real time, so you can see how I work things out. Okay, so I'm just gonna get rid of these numbers. Okay, and these are things that you can do yourself. Okay, and then here I just gonna get the for loop, right? So I need this statement. For some reason I didn't want to copy that. I need that guy in here, and then I need this other guy in here too, just right below. Okay, and then this is a J. Oh, it didn't copy. Okay, I'm just gonna change this to a J. J, J, and J. Okay. Let me make sure that everything is indented. Okay, so here I have a double loop, right? So you can see I have one loop, and here I have another loop. Okay, so when I is equal to 1, then this J is basically is going to go from 1 through 9. It's going to go 9 times. And then it's going to give me a new line. Okay, and then I is going to be equal to 2, and then it's going to go again 9 times. And notice that it's just going to be the product of I times J. It's a multiplication table. Okay, and then we'll just keep doing that over and over. Okay, so you can see here, when I is equal to 1, okay, I is equal to 1, then J is going to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then while it's doing that, in that first row, it's going to print I times J. Okay, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, then I is going to be 2. Okay. And then again J is going to be 1, 2, 3, all the way through 9. Printing 2 times 1, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, all the way through 18. And then we'll just keep going and going, right? So take some time to analyze it. All right, let's run and see what happens. Okay, and notice how we got our multiplication table. I kind of like took out the first row from the code. Okay, which is this loop here. Okay, so this will display the title. Okay, but you can download this code and play with it. But notice how you use a printf to print, I times j, and then once it's done with the loop, it gives me a new line. That's what happens here. It jumps here, right? And then here it will print the number and the bar. This is what you see here. Print the number at the bar and then print the product. Okay, with a space, and then it will go and keep going. Okay, so technically, I mean, you can extend this. Let's go. If I go with 10, let's see what happens. Right, just playing with this. Okay, nice. Okay, you can see here we have to play with the spacing, so technically I should be using tabs in here. That way it will look nice. Okay, but that's something to play with. Okay, last thing is the break and continue modifiers. So I'm just gonna mention it here. Here we have in this section keywords break and continue. Sometimes you want to either get out of the loop or finish an iteration, right? Depending on what do you want. In this case, we have the break. The break will take you out of the loop. Right, so notice here in this loop, pretty much we start at 0 and then we keep adding numbers, right? We add 0, plus 1, right? Then 1 plus 2, 2 plus 3, 3 plus 4, and it keeps going and going. And then it's saying when the sum is greater or equal than 100, break. So that means that when the sum is greater than 100, it will get out of the loop and it will come here, right? So this is a nice way of getting out of the loop. Right, you can also put here a double condition. Well, actually, let's try that. Another way of doing this. So I have the code here. Okay, and then um, here when I'm just gonna run it. Okay, and then when the sum is greater than 0, pretty much it will stop. Okay, because then it will get out of the loop. I think that you can do this also by putting here another condition and saying and sum is less than 100, right? So now it's a double condition. So while the number is less than 20 and the sum is less than 100, do this. Let's see if this works the same. Voila, it just works the same, right? But the intention here is just to show you what the break technically does. The other one is continue. Continue basically takes you to the end of the iteration. So here you see that you are just basically adding numbers, but you will not add a number that is either a 10 or the 11, right? So because when number is either 10 or 11, it will skip that and go to the end of the loop, and then basically will continue, right? If I had a break, it will take me out, but with the continue, it just basically is going to skip this operation, right? So another thing to check. One thing that you can do is to manually add the numbers, right? So I mean, you don't have to add them, right? We know that here we have a formula that is n um, n times n plus 1 plus divided by 2. Okay, so that will be 20 times 21 divided by 2, which we can double check here, which is 20 times 21 divided by 2, 210, right? But we are taking the numbers 10 and 11. 210, but we're taking the numbers 10 and 11, right? So technically we're taking 21, which is 189, right? That's a way of you double checking what the computer is doing for you, right? So if you execute this code, okay, you can see here that the answer is 189, right? It will add all the numbers up to 20, but they're technically skipping 10 and 11 because it will continue and skip this. Okay, so this is a short chapter. Hopefully these videos will help you understand these concepts.